Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers, and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
Look, I need to get something off my chest right now, and I know this is going to make some of you angry. I know some of you are going to click away from this video the second I say what I'm about to say, but it needs to be said. Isaiah Kiner Falefa has become the scapegoat for everything that went wrong in that postseason, and you know what? I'm not entirely sure he deserves it. Actually, scratch that. I'm pretty sure he doesn't deserve most of it. But at the same time, I'm also not going to sit here and tell you he played well because he didn't. So here's the real question we need to answer. Is Isaiah Kiner Falefa unfairly blamed for the collapse? Or is every single piece of criticism he's getting completely justified? Let me start by saying this. The hate that IKF has been getting since the playoffs ended is absolutely insane. I'm talking about death threats. I'm talking about people attacking him personally on social media. I'm talking about fans calling for him to be cut, traded, released, sent to the moon, whatever. And that part, that's completely unacceptable. There's no world in which a professional athlete deserves that kind of treatment for having a bad playoff run. None. Zero. If you're one of those people sending hateful messages to a player's social media, you need to take a long, hard look in the mirror, because that's not being a fan. That's being a terrible human being. But here's where it gets complicated. Here's where we have to separate the personal attacks from the legitimate baseball criticism, because there is legitimate baseball criticism to be made. Isaiah Kiner Falefa was not good in the playoffs. Actually, let me rephrase that. He was actively bad in the playoffs. His defense, which is supposed to be his calling card, the reason he's even on this roster in the first place, was shaky at best and downright terrible at worst. His offense, which we all knew wasn't going to be great, was somehow even worse than we expected. And in the biggest moments, when the team needed someone to step up and make a play, he disappeared. Let's talk about the errors first, because those are what everyone remembers. That throw in Game 5 that sailed wide and allowed a run to score, that was brutal. That was the kind of play that a major league infielder, especially one who prides himself on his glove, has to make. There's no excuse for that throw. The runner wasn't even that fast. The play wasn't particularly difficult. And yet somehow the ball ended up in the dugout instead of in the first baseman's glove. And that run mattered. That run changed the entire complexion of that game. So yeah, IKF deserves criticism for that play. He deserves to hear about it, to own it, to understand that in the playoffs, those mistakes are magnified 1,000 times over. But then we have to ask ourselves, was that error really the reason we lost? Was that one mistake the difference between winning and losing the series? And the honest answer is no. It wasn't. That error was bad. It hurt. It made things harder. But it wasn't the singular moment that destroyed our season. There were plenty of other moments, plenty of other players who didn't execute, plenty of other decisions that went wrong. So why does it feel like IKF is getting more blame than anyone else? Why does it feel like he's become the face of the failure when there were so many other contributing factors? I think part of it is because he was already on thin ice with the fan base. Let's be real here. IKF has never been a fan favorite. From the moment he joined this team, there were questions about whether he was good enough, whether his glove was truly elite enough to make up for his complete lack of offensive production, whether he deserved to be playing every day. And during the regular season, those questions lingered. He had moments where he looked solid defensively, but he also had moments where he looked average at best. And his bat, forget about it. The guy was hitting like he was swinging a pool noodle half the time. So when the playoffs came around and he struggled, it wasn't like people were shocked. It was more like people were validated. It was like all those doubts that had been simmering under the surface all season long suddenly came bubbling up. And everyone felt justified in saying what they'd been thinking all along, that he's not good enough, that he shouldn't be starting, that the team made a mistake by relying on him. And once that narrative takes hold, once that story starts getting told, it's almost impossible to fight against it. Here's what really bothers me, though. Here's what makes this whole situation so frustrating. While everyone is piling on IKF, while everyone is making him the villain of this story, they're giving other players a complete pass. They're ignoring other mistakes, other failures, other moments that were just as bad, if not worse, than anything IKF did. And that's not fair. That's not how this should work. If we're going to hold one player accountable for his mistakes, we need to hold everyone accountable for theirs. Think about all the times the offense went completely silent. Think about all the times we had runners in scoring position and couldn't get them home. Think about all the pitching mistakes, all the managerial decisions that backfired, all the little moments throughout the series that added up to a loss. IKF's error was one piece of a much larger puzzle, but somehow he's become the only piece anyone wants to talk about. And that's unfair to him, but it's also unfair to us as fans because it means we're not actually examining what really went wrong. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying IKF played well. I'm not saying he shouldn't be criticized. What I'm saying is that the criticism needs to be proportional to his actual contribution to the failure. And right now it's not. Right now, he's being treated like he single-handedly cost us the series. And that's just not true. He was bad, yes. He made mistakes, yes. He didn't deliver when we needed him to, absolutely. But he wasn't the only one, and he probably wasn't even the biggest reason we lost. The offensive struggles were way more damaging than IKF's defense. The inability to score runs in crucial situations hurt us far more than one throwing error. The bullpen implosions, the starting pitching that couldn't go deep enough into games, the managerial decisions that left us all scratching our heads, those things had a bigger impact on the series than anything Isiah Kiner-Falefa did or didn't do. But those things are complicated. Those things require nuanced discussion and analysis. It's so much easier to point at one guy, at one error, at one player who was already disliked and say, that's the problem. And maybe that's the real issue here. Maybe the reason IKF is getting so much blame is because we need someone to blame. We need a villain. We need a reason why it all went wrong. And it's easier to pin it on one person than to accept the complicated truth that baseball is a team game and losses are rarely about one player or one moment. It's easier to say IKF cost us the series than to say we collectively weren't good enough in enough areas to win. So where does that leave us? Is IKF unfairly blamed? Partially, yes. The level of vitriol directed at him is completely disproportionate to his actual role in the failure. Is he rightfully criticized? Also, yes. He didn't play well. He made crucial mistakes. And as a professional athlete making millions of dollars, he should be held accountable for his performance. The truth, as it usually does, lies somewhere in the middle. What I think really happened is this. IKF became a symbol. He became the representation of all the frustration, all the disappointment, all the anger that we feel about how the season ended. And once you become that symbol, once you become the face of the failure, it doesn't really matter what you actually did or didn't do. You're going to catch the blame regardless. That's not fair. That's not right. But that's the reality of being a professional athlete in the social media age. Should IKF be back next year? Should he still be the starting shortstop or second baseman or wherever they decide to put him? Those are legitimate questions that the front office needs to answer based on his overall body of work, not just on the worst moments of his playoff performance. But here's what I know for sure. He doesn't deserve the hate. He doesn't deserve the personal attacks. He doesn't deserve to be treated like he's the only reason we're not celebrating a championship right now. He deserves fair criticism based on his actual performance, nothing more and nothing less.